Space was never quiet. You'd think in the vast emptiness there'd be peace, just stars blinking in the dark. But no, space was loud. Not with sound, but with signals, chatter, warnings. And today, it was screaming. The Vardok Armada had been closing in on Earth for weeks. 100 ships, bristling with plasma cannons and fusion torpedoes, moving like a black tide through the solar system. They'd already wiped out the Martian colonies. The moons of Jupiter? Gone? Saturn's defense stations? Nothing but debris now floating aimlessly. Everyone thought Earth was next. From the high seats of the Galactic Council, the decision had been made clear. Humanity was to kneel or be erased. Simple, cold, efficient. They thought we'd fold, like the dozens of other species they'd crushed beneath their gleaming boots. But they had no idea what was waiting for them. The thing is, humans don't kneel easily. Sure, we fight among ourselves. Sure, we bicker and mess things up. But when an outsider threatens us, that's when we remember who we are. That's when we bite back. "Status report," barked Admiral Serena Holt, standing tall on the bridge of the INS Retribution. Her voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Vardok Armada is holding position at the edge of the asteroid belt, Admiral. They're not moving," reported Lieutenant Keene, fingers dancing across his console. His voice trembled, but not from fear, from anticipation. Serena's lips curled into a smile. Good, let them wait. The INS Retribution wasn't just another warship. It was the Warship. Born from black-budget projects, hidden in the shadows of bureaucracy, built with technology so advanced that even Earth's own people whispered rumors about it. Quantum reactive armor, dark energy cannons, a reactor core that could bend space itself. It was humanity's middle finger to the universe. And today, it was heading straight for the Vardok Armada. As the ship cut through space, every telescope, every drone, every sensor was locked on it. Not just from Earth, but from alien worlds across the galaxy. Everyone was watching, waiting, because no one had ever stood up to the Vardok and survived. "Message from the Vardok flagship, Admiral," Keene announced. "They're demanding our surrender." Serena laughed, not a polite chuckle, a full belly-deep laugh that echoed through the bridge. "Send them this," she said, straightening her uniform. "Tell them we're coming. Tell them the last thing they'll hear is human steel breaking their bones." The crew roared in approval, and then the Vardok did something no one expected. They stopped transmitting. Their channels went dead. Their ships froze in place. Because on their screens, growing larger by the second, was the silhouette of the Retribution. And they finally understood. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a reckoning. The INS Retribution glided forward, a silent predator in the vastness of space. Its hull gleamed like obsidian, not a single insignia, not a single light to break its shadow. Just the raw, brutal shape of something designed for one purpose: war. Inside, the crew moved with sharp precision. No panic, no hesitation. They knew why they were here. They'd seen the broadcasts, heard the screams when Mars fell, when Europa's last distress signal fizzled into static. The Vardok thought humanity would cower. But humans, we don't break that easily. "Range to enemy fleet?" Serena's voice was calm, but her eyes ice cold. 200,000 clicks and closing, Admiral. They're still not moving. No weapons hot. No shield activations. It's like they're scared," Keene reported, disbelief thick in his voice. Serena smirked. "They should be." The truth was, the Vardok had every reason to hesitate. Their empire had conquered hundreds of worlds, but never had they faced something like this ship. Never had they seen a warship built not for defense, but for vengeance. The Retribution wasn't a response to invasion. It was a promise that humanity would never be victims again. Arm dark energy lancers, prepare void torpedoes. Target their flagship first, Serena ordered. Aye, Admiral. Targeting now, came the sharp reply. Outside, space shimmered. From the prow of the Retribution, ghostly distortions rippled, as if reality itself was flinching. The dark energy lances were spooling up, tapping into forces even the Vardok's advanced science barely understood. Forces humanity had learned to harness out of pure necessity. For a few tense moments, there was only silence. Then a flicker on the comms channel. A voice, rough and snarling. Vardok Warlord. Human vessel, this is Supreme Commander Zorvath of the Vardok Armada. You face annihilation. Surrender, and we may consider— Serena cut the channel with a flick of her hand. Talk is cheap, she muttered. The ship's AI, nicknamed Ghost, spoke next. Its voice was soft, almost amused. Admiral, weapon systems primed, all hands ready. Fire! The lances fired, not with a flash, but with a pulse that seemed to darken the stars themselves. Beams of condensed dark energy sliced through space, invisible to the eye but devastating in effect. They struck the Vardok flagship square in its armored gut. There was no explosion, no fireball. The flagship simply disappeared. Atomized, gone. One moment it was a proud symbol of Vardok might. The next it was a smear of scattered molecules, torn apart by forces beyond their comprehension. Silence. On the Vardok comms, static reigned. No orders, no bravado, just the empty hush of shock. Secondary targets, fire at will, Serena commanded, her voice like a blade. Void torpedoes launched, sleek and silent, slipping through enemy shields like whispers of death. Each impact was surgical, engines disabled, weapon systems neutralized. No need for flashy destruction. Humanity was here to end this, clean and cold. Across the enemy fleet, panic set in. Vardok ships veered off course, struggling to regroup, their formation crumbling like sand under a wave. They weren't ready for us, Keen breathed. They never are, Serena replied. And then a ripple of something unexpected. One of the Vardok cruisers powered down completely. Engines offline, shields dropped. A universal signal blinked. Surrender. One ship surrendered, then 2, then 10. The mighty Vardok Armada, the scourge of 100 worlds, had fallen silent. And as the Retribution pressed closer, humanity's message became clear. We are not prey. We are the storm. The bridge of the Retribution hummed with a strange energy. Part anticipation, part disbelief. The Vardok, the so-called apex predators of the galaxy, were surrendering. Not out of diplomacy, not out of some last-minute bargain. Out of fear. Admiral, we're getting multiple surrender signals now. Looks like half their fleet's going dark. No weapons, no shields, just floating dead in space. Keen reported, eyes wide. Serena leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled, watching the enemy fleet crumble. Broadcast to the remaining Vardok ships. One message, 5 words. Keen raised an eyebrow. Which words, Admiral? Serena's smile was razor-sharp. Run, or be erased next. The transmission went out on an open frequency. No encryption, no ceremony. Just those 5 words. Simple, director, human, and devastating. The effect was immediate. The remaining Vardok ships turned, engines flaring bright as they broke formation in a blind retreat. The once mighty Armada, so proud, so ruthless, now fled like wounded animals. The bridge crew cheered. Years of fear, of watching colonies fall, of hearing news reports dripping with tragedy, all of it washed away in that moment. Humanity had struck back, not with words, not with pleas, but with power. Track them, but let them run, Serena ordered. Make sure they know exactly how fast we could catch them. Yes, Admiral, Tracking now. They won't forget this day. But even as the Vardok scattered, Serena's expression remained cold. This wasn't over. Not yet. Ghost, give me a full systems scan. Any hidden signatures? Cloaked vessels? I don't trust them to retreat without a knife ready for our backs. The AI responded instantly. Multiple stealth anomalies detected near Neptune's orbit. Likely Vardok Black Ops ships. Their stealth tech is primitive compared to ours, but functional. Serena's jaw tightened. Of course, they couldn't win in the open, so they'll try the shadows. Typical. She stood, addressing her crew. Prepare strike drones. Deploy spectre mines. We flush them out and burn them down. No survivors. The crew snapped into action, adrenaline renewed. This was no longer a battle. It was a hunt. Within minutes, the Retribution's belly opened, releasing swarms of autonomous strike drones, small, fast, lethal. They spread out like a living net, sweeping through the dark reaches of space. One by one, cloaked Vardok ships blinked into view as spectre mines forced them out of hiding. Panicked transmissions crackled, but no mercy was given. The drones struck with surgical precision, disabling engines, crippling weapons. But Serena had no intention of boarding. No prisoners today. Execute purge protocol. Clean sweep. Explosions blossomed in the dark, silent but final. The Vardok Black Ops ships were erased from existence, their last desperate ploy crushed beneath human ingenuity. On the main screen, Earth came into view. Blue, fragile, beautiful, and safe. For now. Status, Keen? Area secure, Admiral. 0 hostiles remaining. Vardok forces in full retreat beyond Pluto's orbit. We've won. The weight of those words settled over the crew. We've won. For the first time in decades, Earth had faced an existential threat and not only survived, but dominated. But Serena knew better than to celebrate too soon. Prepare the fleet. Today we defended. Tomorrow we retaliate. The Vardok thought they knew us, thought they understood what humanity was. They saw prey. Her gaze hardened, steel in her voice. Now they'll see predators. The Retribution turned, engines glowing like the fires of vengeance, leading the charge back into the black. Because humanity wasn't done yet. In the cold silence of deep space, the INS Retribution carved a path toward Vardok territory. No more defensive posturing. No more waiting for the enemy to come. This time, humanity was bringing the fight to them. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Serena had seen the transmissions, aliens in their golden robes, all twisting their words, pretending to condemn Vardok aggression while secretly terrified of humanity's sudden, brutal response. They'd all thought Earth was a backwater planet. A little rebellious, sure, but manageable, containable. Not anymore. Admiral, incoming message from the Galactic Council. They want us to stand down, initiate peace talks. Keen announced, barely able to keep the smirk off his face. Peace talks. Serena scoffed. Where were these talks when Mars burned? When the Vardok slaughtered civilians in the belt? Number they're only talking now because they're afraid we won't stop with the Vardok. She stood, pacing slowly across the bridge. Put them on screen. Let's see what they have to say. The main holodisplay flickered, revealing the image of High Chancellor Verek, a serpentine being with polished scales and a mouth full of honeyed lies. His voice slithered through the speakers. Admiral Holt, the Council urges restraint. Your actions against the Vardok, while understandable, risk destabilizing galactic peace. Serena laughed. A short, bitter sound. Peace? Chancellor, you sat silent while the Vardok wiped out our colonies. You said nothing when they glassed entire cities. And now, when humanity finally fights back, now you talk about peace. Spare me. Verek's tone sharpened. Retaliation will only breed more violence. We propose sanctions, reparations, a tribunal to address Vardok crimes. Serena's eyes narrowed. Tribunals won't bring back the dead. Sanctions won't rebuild Mars. Humanity doesn't want empty words. We want justice, and if you won't deliver it, we will." Without waiting for a response, she cut the channel. Council's scared. Keen muttered, "Good, they should be. But our focus stays on the Vardok." Serena replied. Moments later, the ship's AI ghost chimed in. "Admiral, long-range sensors picking up a Vardok defense fleet near the Threxian Rift. 40 ships, heavily fortified. It's their last major stronghold before Vardok Prime." "Perfect," Serena said, a dangerous gleam in her eyes. "Plot an intercept course. Full combat readiness. Today we end this war." The Retribution surged forward, engines growling as if hungry for the coming battle. As they approached the rift, the crew tensed. The Vardok weren't running this time. This was their line in the sand, their last chance to stop humanity's advance. "Enemy fleet locking weapons, Admiral. They're not holding back," Keen reported. "Neither are we," Serena said. "Deploy drone swarms, charge dark energy lancers, bring the void torpedoes online. This ends now." Space erupted in violence. The first wave of Vardok fighters screamed toward the Retribution, a storm of plasma bolts lighting up the void. But humanity had learned, adapted. The ship's adaptive shields absorbed the barrage, dispersing the energy harmlessly. Strike drones countered with ruthless efficiency, darting through enemy lines, tearing into Vardok hulls with precision strikes. Explosions bloomed silently, debris scattering into the black. "Lancers ready, Admiral?" Ghost reported. "Fire. Break their formation." The dark energy lancers unleashed another pulse, slicing through Vardok cruisers as if they were paper. Entire sections of their fleet disintegrated, their pride turning to vapor. But the Vardok fought back with savage desperation. 3 of their destroyers managed to flank, unleashing a barrage aimed at the Retribution's port side. "Shields holding, but we've got stress fractures in Section 17, Keen shouted. "Rotate armor plating. Redirect power from aft engines. Keep us moving forward," Serena ordered. The Retribution powered through, shrugging off the assault, retaliating with a salvo of void torpedoes that tore through the flanking destroyers. One by one, the Vardok ships fell. Their numbers, their technology, their ferocity. It wasn't enough. Not against this, not against humanity. As the last Vardok battleship cracked apart, the crew of the Retribution watched in grim silence. It was over. "Threxian Rift secure, Admiral. No hostiles remain," Ghost confirmed. Serena exhaled slowly. "Set course for Vardok Prime. We finish what they started." This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about making sure no one ever dared raise a hand against humanity again. The blackness of space seemed to shrink as the INS Retribution closed in on Vardok Prime. For centuries, it had been the heart of their empire, a fortress world untouched by war. No invading force had ever made it this far. Until now. On the main display, Vardok Prime loomed larger, a dark, iron-streaked planet wrapped in orbital defense rings and swarming with warships. It wasn't just a planet, it was a statement, a warning to every other species. This is what power looks like. But today, it would be a graveyard. "Status of the enemy defenses?" Serena asked, her voice calm, but her hands clenched behind her back. "Massive fleet presence, Admiral. Hundreds of ships, orbital platforms locked and loaded, planetary railguns aimed directly at us," Keen reported. Tension coiled in his words. "Perfect. Just how I like it." Most commanders would hesitate here. Maybe negotiate. Maybe bluff. But Serena Holt wasn't most commanders. She knew fear when she saw it. This overwhelming show of force? It wasn't confidence, it was desperation. "Ghost, initiate Operation Blackout," the AI responded instantly. "Engaging electromagnetic pulse wave. Enemy systems will be compromised in T-30 seconds." Far ahead, A ripple of invisible energy spread outward, a synthetic aurora slithering through the void. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't violent. But as it passed over Vardok forces, chaos erupted. Ship after ship went dark. Power flickered. Engines stalled. Orbital platforms shuddered. Their targeting systems scrambled. The proud fleet of Vardok Prime was suddenly blind, deaf, and very, very vulnerable. "Fire all batteries. Focus on disabling ship engines. No retreats today," Serena commanded. The Retribution unleashed hell. Dark energy lances cut through battleships. Void torpedoes found their marks. Strike drones zipped through the crippled enemy lines, exploiting every weakness with surgical precision. Ships exploded in slow, beautiful bursts, torn apart in total silence. On the planet's surface, the planetary railguns tried to compensate, but Ghost was faster, hacking their targeting protocols, feeding them false coordinates. The railguns fired, not at the Retribution, but at their own fleet, punching molten holes through Vardok hulls. Keen's voice was filled with something new, pride. "They're tearing themselves apart, Admiral." Serena allowed herself a small smile. Good. Let them taste their own brutality. But even as the Vardok fleet crumbled, a new alert flashed on the main screen. "Admiral, we've got a massive power surge from the planet's core. Something's coming up from below the surface," Ghost reported. The crew watched in grim fascination as the crust of Vardok Prime cracked open. Rising from the fissure was a colossal war machine, a behemoth dreadnought larger than anything they'd faced before. Its hull was jagged, pulsating with crimson energy, bristling with weapons designed for planetary annihilation. The Harbinger, their last ace, Serena muttered. The Harbinger was more than a ship. It was a planet killer, a relic from the Vardok's ancient wars of conquest. They hadn't dared deploy it for centuries, until now. "Target acquired, Admiral, but it's heavily shielded. Standard weapons won't breach," Keen warned. Serena didn't flinch. "Time to bring out our ace." From the bowels of the Retribution, something stirred. The Omega Lance. A weapon of last resort, tapping into dark matter singularities to unleash devastation on a scale even the Vardok couldn't comprehend. "Charge Omega Lance, full power. This ends with us or them," Serena ordered. The crew worked in flawless sync, their fear overridden by purpose. This was what they had trained for. As the Harbinger turned its massive cannons toward Earth's approaching fleet, the Retribution struck first. The Omega Lance fired. Reality itself seemed to ripple. No sound, no light. Just a ripple, like a tear in the fabric of space, extending outward until it reached the Harbinger. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dreadnought folded inward, collapsing as if the universe had decided it no longer belonged. The Vardok's ultimate weapon, their symbol of unstoppable power, was erased from existence. A hush fell over the battlefield. One by one, the remaining Vardok ships powered down, weapons jettisoned, engines stalled. A single universal signal blinked across every channel. Surrender, unconditional. Keen exhaled, voice almost trembling. "Admiral, we did it. Vardok Prime is ours." Serena stood tall, her eyes fixed on the dying embers of the battlefield. "Number, it's not ours. It's free. They just don't know it yet." Humanity had come to the edge of annihilation. And instead, they had become the storm that swept empires aside. But Serena knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The dust of battle hadn't even settled before the vultures started circling. Serena sat at the head of a long steel table aboard the Retribution, her fingers tapping a slow rhythm against the surface. The war was won. Vardok Prime was broken. But now came the part she hated most. Politics. The Galactic Council had been blowing up her comms non-stop, suddenly very interested in discussing terms and ensuring stability. Hypocrites, every last one of them. They hadn't lifted a claw, fin, or tentacle when Earth burned, but now they wanted a say in the victory. Council transmission coming in again, Admiral. They're getting impatient. Keen said, though he sounded more amused than concerned. Let them wait. They've been patient for years while the Vardok slaughtered innocents. A few more minutes won't kill them. Serena said flatly. Still, when the transmission finally connected, she plastered on the coldest smile she could manage. High Chancellor Virek appeared again, his polished scales gleaming under the artificial lights. His tone was oily smooth. Admiral Holt, allow me to be the first to extend formal congratulations. The Council recognizes humanity's surprising victory and wishes to negotiate the terms of Vardok's surrender alongside your esteemed leadership. Serena's smile sharpened. That's cute, Chancellor. But no, you had your chance. This isn't a negotiation. This is a reckoning. Virek's face twitched, barely concealing his irritation. Admiral, unilateral action could be seen as aggressive. It risks painting humanity as a threat rather than a liberator. Serena leaned in, voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Good. Let them think we're a threat. Maybe next time, when someone comes to burn our homes, they'll remember this day and hesitate. She cut the transmission. Keen gave a low whistle. That'll rattle their scales. I hope so, Serena said, standing. But we're not done here. Vardok Prime isn't just a planet. It's a prison. You think they rose to power alone? They've enslaved species, turned planets into factories, lives into resources. We're freeing them all. She strode to the main display, where a map of the Vardok Empire flickered, dotted with red. Worlds under Vardok control. Each dot represented suffering. Fear. Mobilize relief teams. Secure the major cities. Broadcast on all frequencies. Vardok rule is over. Humanity's not here to replace a tyrant. We're here to end them. Keen nodded, his grin wide. You just made a lot of enemies. Serena smirked. Good, means we're doing it right. As Retribution's fleet deployed, the true scope of Vardok's cruelty came into focus. Labor camps disguised as settlements, factories where entire species toiled until they dropped. Propaganda towers broadcasting lies of Vardok's superiority, but no more. Human forces moved through with precision, dismantling Vardok control structures, liberating prisoners, and restoring what dignity they could. For every city freed, for every camp torn down, the people cheered, not as conquerors, but as deliverers. Still, Serena knew the scars ran deep. Freedom was one thing, healing was another. Hours later, in a newly liberated Vardok city, she stood among crowds of freed citizens, aliens of every shape and color. Some looked at her with awe, others with suspicion, but all of them watched. She stepped up to the makeshift podium, speaking not as an admiral, but as a human. We know what it's like to be overlooked, to be called weak, to be ignored until it's too late. We know because we lived it. But those days are over. For us. For you. For everyone the Vardok oppressed. Her voice rose, carrying through the square. We didn't come here for territory. We didn't come for tribute. We came because it was right. And now, with every voice, with every hand willing to rise up, we rebuild. The crowd erupted, not in forced applause, but in genuine, defiant hope. Back aboard the Retribution, Serena returned to the bridge, her face set with renewed purpose. Ghost, send a message to Earth. Tell them the Vardok have fallen, and tell them this is just the beginning. Humanity stands ready, not as rulers, but as guardians. Keen looked at her, admiration in his eyes. Never thought I'd see the day we'd be the good guys. Serena's smile was weary but proud. Neither did I, Keen. Neither did I. But deep in the shadows of the galaxy, Unseen eyes watched. The fall of the Vardok had not gone unnoticed, and power, once toppled, always leaves a void, one that others would be eager to fill. In the cold vacuum beyond Vardok space, something stirred. They called themselves the Shroud. Where the Vardok had been brutal, loud, and arrogant, the Shroud was the opposite. Silent, patient, watching. They had no homeworld, no banners, no alliances. Only influence whispered in the dark. For decades they had watched the Vardok grind civilizations into dust, content to let the Empire draw all attention. But now the Vardok were gone, and the Shroud saw opportunity. Back aboard the Retribution, Admiral Serena Holt stood before a projection of the galaxy. The Vardok Empire's territories now splintered into a patchwork of unstable regions. For every world liberated, 10 more teetered on the edge of chaos. "Power vacuums are dangerous," Ghost said, its voice unnervingly calm. "Nature abhors a vacuum. So does politics." "No kidding," Serena muttered. "And we just shattered the biggest bully in the playground." Keen approached, datapad in hand. "Admiral, we've got reports coming in. Coordinated strikes on former Vardok supply routes, communications sabotage, tactical assassinations of planetary governors we installed. Someone's moving fast, hitting us where it hurts." "Not pirates?" "No, ma'am. Too precise. Too methodical. This is organized. Someone's playing the long game." Serena frowned, eyes narrowing. "Bring up intel profiles on possible players." The holographic display shifted, faces and emblems flickering past. Crime syndicates, mercenary bands, rival empires. But one symbol lingered longer than the rest, a black spiral, simple yet unsettling. "The Shroud," Ghost said. "Minimal data, known only through indirect influence, proxy wars, economic manipulation, never direct engagement, until now. So they stayed hidden while the Vardok kept everyone distracted. And now that we've flipped the table, they're crawling out of their hole." Serena's tone was venomous. Keen nodded grimly. "They're not hitting us head-on. They're bleeding us slow, undermining stability, turning liberation into chaos." Serena slammed her fist onto the console. "Cowards! Parasites! Fine! They want to play shadows? We'll drag them into the light." She paced, the weight of the galaxy pressing on her shoulders. Defeating the Vardok had been war. This ? This was going to be a different kind of fight. "Ghost, prioritize intel sweeps. I want every whisper traced, every credit followed. Keen, assemble a task force. Black Ops, infiltration specialists. If the Shroud wants to hide, we'll smoke them out from every hole they crawl into." "Aye, Admiral. But be careful. This won't be like Vardok. These guys don't do open fights. They corrupt. They subvert." "Then we don't give them time to." Serena's eyes gleamed with fire. "We strike first." As orders rippled through the fleet, the Retribution prepared for a new kind of war. Not of grand battleships and planet-crushing weapons, but of espionage, sabotage, and psychological warfare. The Shroud had underestimated humanity. They thought we were only good at brute force. But humans were born from shadows, too. In the coming weeks, skirmishes broke out across former Vardok space. Supply convoys vanished. Political allies found themselves betrayed. It was like fighting a ghost. But ghosts bleed, too. In one daring operation, Serena's task force infiltrated a Shroud-controlled facility on the dead moon of Kairos 7. The intel they retrieved was more valuable than gold. Networks of influence stretching into the Galactic Council, even touching Earth's own trade hubs. "They've been preparing for this for decades," Keen said, slamming the datapad onto the table, "feeding instability, buying officials, setting the stage for when the Vardok fell. And we just accelerated their plans," Serena said, voice low. "They're not just a threat to us. They're a threat to everyone." She leaned forward, speaking to her officers, her voice slicing through the tension. The galaxy watched us stand up to the Vardok. They think we're done, that we'll get bogged down in rebuilding. But they're wrong. This fight isn't over. It's just evolved. Outside the viewport, the shattered remains of a Vardok dreadnought drifted in silence, a reminder of battles past. But the real war was just beginning. Serena Holt smiled, sharp and dangerous. Let's show the Shroud what happens when you pick a fight with humanity. The galaxy held its breath. The Shroud's web of influence was suffocating entire sectors, turning allies into pawns, sowing distrust in every liberated world. But what they didn't expect, what no one ever expected, was how humans responded to being cornered. We get meaner. Inside the command deck of the Retribution, Admiral Serena Holt stood before her assembled war council. The mood was different now, not desperate, focused, sharp. Every officer knew what was at stake. "All right, listen up," Serena began. "The Shroud thinks they're untouchable, invisible, but we've cracked their shell." She tapped the console, bringing up a schematic of a space station hidden in the turbulent maelstrom of the Droska Nebula. Massive, shielded, heavily defended, the heart of the Shroud's operations. "This is Oblivion Spire, their command nexus. Every credit they steal, every lie they spread. It all flows through here. We take this, we cut off their head." Keen's jaw tightened. "We'll never get through their outer defenses, Admiral. No ships survived the nebula's radiation storms, let alone their automated sentries." "That's why we're not sending ships," Serena said, a cold smile spreading. "We're sending us. A plan only a human would come up with. Insane, reckless, brilliant. A covert strike team, launched in stealth pods, threading through the radiation storms, using the very chaos of the nebula as cover. It wasn't about brute force. It was about precision, about hitting them so hard, so fast, they wouldn't know what hit them. 3 days later, the operation began. The Retribution remained in high orbit, cloaked, its systems in full stealth mode. In the shadow of the nebula, Serena's team launched. Blackout pods, nearly invisible, weaving through plasma currents, dodging debris and electromagnetic storms with nothing but instinct and sheer will. Inside her pod, Serena's pulse was steady. This was what she lived for. As they neared Oblivion Spire, the Shroud's defenses came alive. Auto-turrets fired blindly into the storm, but humanity had learned to fight in the chaos. One by one, the team breached the outer shell, slipping through ventilation shafts and maintenance tunnels like ghosts. Inside, the Shroud's command was unprepared. For all their planning, all their manipulation, they had grown soft behind their walls of secrecy. Serena's team moved through them like a scalpel, swift, silent, lethal. Keen's voice crackled in her earpiece. "Main control hub secured. Uploading viral payload now. Ghost says we'll have full system control in 90 seconds. "Good. Seal the exits. No one gets out," Serena ordered. The facility's AI screamed in protest as the viral code spread. Doors slamming shut, security systems flipping allegiance. The Shroud's operatives, once faceless puppeteers, now scrambled like trapped rats. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Shroud's director. She wants to speak with you," Ghost reported. Serena patched it through. On the hollow screen appeared a woman, not alien, but human. Cold eyes, a voice like a knife wrapped in velvet. "You think this changes anything, Admiral Holt? Cut off one head, 2 more grow in its place." Serena's smile was razor sharp. "Maybe, but today you lose your teeth." With a single command, the viral payload triggered Oblivion Spire's self-destruct sequence. No explosions, no grand fireballs, just a systematic shutdown, every system collapsing, every secret exposed. Outside, the Retribution systems flared to life as terabytes of stolen data flooded in. Names, accounts, blackmail. Every dirty secret the Shroud had ever hoarded now laid bare. The Shroud had ruled through fear, through hidden knives. Now the galaxy would see every single one of them. Mission complete, Admiral. Oblivion Spire is gone. The Shroud's network is crumbling. Their assets are being seized across Council space. Keen reported, his grin wide and fierce. Back on the bridge, as the Retribution emerged from the nebula, Serena looked out at the stars. Once more, humanity had faced annihilation. Once more they had stood their ground, not by being the biggest or the oldest, but by being the most stubborn. "We were never supposed to survive out here," she said softly. "But we did, and now they'll remember why." From the ashes of Vardok Prime to the fall of the Shroud, humanity had sent a message to the galaxy. We are not victims. We are not prey. We are the storm. And the storm had only just begun.